Alright guys, in today's video what we're going to be working on is a situation when the vehicle's been debadged of these kind of stickers that you see on the back side of the bed of the truck or the quarter panel area, if you will. We're working today on a 2013 Chevrolet Avalanche. It was the only year it had one of these Z71 type stickers, and it had been debadged. This is after we've already repaired it. I'm going to show you how we got it to this state, surface prep, the part number for this particular decal, and how to get it installed on both sides, so stay tuned. So guys, there's no information in the service manual about this repair. It typically would only be done in the event of some collision damage, and the body shop would apply the parts that we're going to use today. But there are some accessory off-road stickers. They're very similar. The design is different, but the instructions on how to install are going to be identical. And of course, these measurements that you see on this page are for pickup trucks. They're not going to apply to this Avalanche that we're working on. But tools that you'll need: isopropyl alcohol. I use 50%. Lint-free towels, a plastic or rubber squeegee, a trigger type spray bottle, and some unscented liquid dish soap. Something that cuts grease but has no dyes and no scents, no fragrance, and then some masking tape. They're going to get into installing the decal here, and I'm going to show you all this in video, but you can certainly read this while you go. But what I'm interested in right now is the surface preparation. So the body shop would be working with a newly painted panel. So all they would be worried about is the ambient temperature, washing off any dust or dirt that had been in from the painting process and the body shop repair, running some isopropyl alcohol, drying it, and then going ahead and starting the installation procedure. The dish soap is used as a surfactant to prevent the decal from sticking until you're ready, and to let you slowly make slight adjustments to get into a position while you work bubbles out of it. This installation is very similar to if you ever built plastic models as a kid and you had those kind of decals that you soaked in the water and then they slid off onto the plastic of the model. This is very similar to what GM has here. It's not a sticker, it's a decal. So let's go ahead and work on the surface prep, and then we'll come back to these instructions as we get to the actual installation. Alright guys, surface prep is everything on this job. I'm going to be using a little a little sprayer like this to spray that out, 16 ounces. And then what I've added is this particular brand of Palmolive Pure and Clear. It's got no dyes, no fragrances, no nothing, just the soap and the degreaser, and that's what we want for a job like this. We're just trying to cut off any old wax or old detailing chemicals that might be on here while we get off the dirt. Just like when you put a screen protector on your iPhone or something like that, you get a little piece of dust under there. It can cause like a bubble. It's going to be the same deal here. So we want to get all this dust and dirt off. We're also going to want to, though, get any kind of chemicals that will cause the adhesive on the decal to let go after it heats up. So that's what we're doing here. So I'm not going to walk you through the whole thing here, right? This is just basic stuff, right? We're just going to use this soapy water, and we're going to use a microfiber towel, and we're just going to start with getting the surface dirt off in an area, not just the decal area, but about a 8-inch area all around it. So I'm going to do a couple of passes of this, and we'll come back and we go do the next step with the isopropyl alcohol. All right, after we've gotten the initial wash down done, then we're going to move over to the IPA. And I'm going to use this 50% type. For cleaning jobs like this, that's all you really need. I'm going to flip over the towel. And what we're after here is, again, chemicals. We're after trying to get any chemicals that may be on the top of the clear coat that are going to affect us, right? So we're just going to go ahead and make a couple passes with this, and we'll come back and I'll show you step 3. Okay, third surface prep step. If this had been in the body shop and was a freshly repaired panel, we wouldn't need to do this. But since this has been sitting out in the open all this time, since this vehicle was debadged, we don't know how long it was debadged. This is a 2013, but it could have been debadged that year. We don't know. So we're going to have to clay this. What we're doing with clay is we're trying to get any kind of surface contaminants that have dug themselves in to the clear coat that you can't see easily with the naked eye. Now, you can use anything you want here. I have this Meguiar's clay kit that I'm using. It's a good, inexpensive way to get some clay. It's got some other stuff in it that you wouldn't use, like there's a detail chemical in here. We're not going to use that for this because it'll cause the decal not to stick. These detailing chemicals usually have some type of wax in them. But we're just going to use our same soapy water mix, distilled water and soap mix, and we're just going to flatten out a piece of clay, and we're going to work it in. I'll show you here in just a minute. We're just going to get our soapy water going in the general area of our decal again. Spread this out. I'm going to start with a circular motion, and when you first do this, you should feel some grit, and that's this thing doing its job. When it starts to feel really slick, then you know you've gotten everything out of there. So we're going to go circular to start, then we're going to flip it over, and then we're going to go back and forth. And whenever we get to a point where the sun is starting to maybe dry our soapy water, we're going to reapply it because we want to keep lubrication with this. We don't want to drive this stuff into the clear coat. We want to get it caught in the clay and pulled out. And then after we get done with that, we're just going to take another side of our clay and we'll go back to the circular motion, and then we're done. So I'm going to go do all those steps of prep and then bring you back when we're ready for the next step. All right, after we're done there, we're going to give it one more wipe down. And then we're going to hit it one more time with IPA. Same 50% that I used the first time. And now after this, we're ready to start the installation step. Now the installation step here is going to be just, this first part is measurements, and the measurements I'm going to give you is just for this Avalanche. And unfortunately, this decal was only used in one model year, 2013 of the Avalanche, but it was used from 2007 to 2014 on pickup trucks like the Silverado and the Sierra. So same decal, same process I've gone through applies to all those trucks across the model years in the video title, but the measurements I'm going to give is unique to this 2013 Avalanche. Normally the Avalanche would have had a Z71 emblem up on the C panel, but in 2013 it was the last year, so they had an anniversary edition badge up there, and they used the pickup sticker here in the back. So that's why this one's the only year that's got the sticker. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do measurements, and the measurements I'm going to give you came off of an unmolested original vehicle, so we know they're accurate. So let me go mask this off for the measurements and show you how that relates to the actual GM part. All right, guys, coming back to the instruction sheet. So we've done the prep section. I don't know if I mentioned 3 drops of dish soap into a 24-ounce or so type spray bottle. I actually only put 16 ounces in, and I went with 4 drops. Just past experience, it works a little better. Might even add one more drop before we do this next step here, because that mix is what this decal floats on. The adhesive is activated by pressure. They tell you about using firm overlapping strokes beginning at the center of the decal and working outwards. So you start in the middle and you work, like in this example here, you start in the middle and you work towards the back. You start in the middle and you work towards the front. You do not come from the outside in. That's just going to scrape it off and damage it, and it can rip very easily. The tool I'm going to be using for that is just a small rubber squeegee like this, something left over from the last time you put a screen protector on your phone is fine. Just needs to be flexible and rubber at the end. Another tool to have handy is either a needle or a small push pin. Sometimes you can get a really stubborn bubble in the center part of the decal and it won't push out. If you get that, you can just take the pin, give it a little pop, and let the air out. That helps you get rid of that kind of a problem. Don't use a razor blade or X-Acto knife or anything like that. You want to make the smallest possible hole just to get the air out. Let's see, the pre-mask, that's that piece I showed you on the GM part that's stuck on top of the decal. So there's a backing, there's the decal, and then there's a pre-mask on top. We'll leave the pre-mask on until we get everything the way we want it. Then when we get everything the way we want it, we'll give it a little shot with the hot air gun, and then we'll peel the pre-mask off. So they talk about, again, the prep, positioning where you want this using masking tape. Lay the decal upside down and slowly remove the release liner. That's the adhesive piece I was mentioning. Spray the decal, spray both the decal and the back of the vehicle where it's going to be applied. There's that step for spraying it on the decal. Lay it onto the surface, aligning the pre-mask carrier edges to the edge of the masking tape that you're going to be using, Use a squeegee to press the decal into place, beginning at the center, working towards the edges, like I said. Slowly remove the carrier by pulling it off at 180-degree angles. Check for any imperfections. If the bubbles are present, use a towel wrapped around the squeegee and push them towards the edges. If necessary, lift the edge of the decal to allow the bubble to escape and press the decal back into place. They don't mention the pin trick, but past experience, I can tell you it works. And then they give some information about not doing pressure washes on this for 72 hours. I'd also tell you don't try to wax it or wash it or anything. Give it a nice week in the sun before you do any kind of things like that to it. All right, let's get started on actually doing it now. All right, guys, this is the part number that we're going to be working with, a GM2579 8300. So that is the Z71 sticker for the years that this video covers. And what you get inside, or I should say decal, what you get inside, there's your decal. It's sitting on a backing, and then it's got a pre-mask on top. And then it's pre-marked for how you separate the two. And what we've done on our measurements here is we've tailored our measurements for this carrier. So if we get everything centered on these three pieces of masking tape, then what we'll end up having is the correct orientation of where we measured from the top of the number 1 in the Z71 to this gap in the fender, from the bottom of the 4 to this gap in the fender, from the top of this 1 to this bend on the body, and from the top of the Z to this bend in the body and this bend in the body. You could also use this gap up here. And then this one over here, we just measured from the back to give us something to support the decal. So we're ready to put it on now. But now that we've messed around with this tape, we're going to need to do another hit of IPA. And by the way, this tape we're using is just 3M automotive masking tape, like you'd use when you're painting. It's kind of like painter's tape, but more automotive oriented. All right, so hit the IPA one more time. And again, what we're after here is we've touched this, putting this masking tape on. So we want to get rid of any skin oils that might interfere with the adhesion. And sometimes you can get, I don't know if you guys can make it out in the video, but sometimes these microfiber towels pick up a lot of lint and stuff. I want to be able to blow all that off. Again, just like when you're putting a screen protector on an iPhone, any of that stuff will cause unsightly bubbles. So we want to get all that off of there. All right, so now to put this on, we're going to apply our soapy water mix. We're going to separate the decal attached to the pre-mask from the backing, and then we're going to float it on top of that soapy water. And then we're going to use a plastic type of squeegee like this. And again, this is just something left over from an iPhone screen protector. We're just going to go from middle to back, middle to back, middle to back, middle to front, middle to front, middle to front, right? And then we're going to have our pin handy in case we get any stubborn holes in this middle area here. Anything along the edges, you'll be able to squeegee out. Something dead here in the middle might give you a hard time. You want to try and work it into these gaps between the numbers, but sometimes it won't budge. You get a little pop with the needle or a pin like this to let the air out, and then you'll be able to smooth it down. All right, let's soap it up. You can never have too much here. Then we're going to separate it from the backing. You want to go slow to make sure the decal stays adhered to the pre-mask. And it'll stay kind of flat. It won't curl up on you. And then we're going to hit the back side of the adhesive as well. Don't drop it. Okay, so now we're going to line it up against our masking tape pieces. They're telling us how to guide aligning this. And then we're going to try to smooth this out. And if it feels rough on the outside, go ahead and put some of this on the outside as well. Now you're going to see the pre-mask bubble up. That's okay. You're watching for the decal underneath not to bubble up. And you can feel it when there's a bubble. You'll feel like a little ridge, at least if you have a thin enough squeegee you can. Now before we pull this pre-mask off, we'll double check our measurements. What kind of measurements we're looking for example, from the top of the 1 on the black corner over to the gap with the tail light. It's just a tad over an inch. From the bottom of the 4, it's right around 2. And then from the top of the Z on the black there, you see that gap, a little bit over 3.5. Top of the 1 on the black, just at 4. All right, we're almost done. Now you also can adjust this by eye. I've done that. So we had a little bit of an air bubble right here on this corner. So I'm going to watch this corner. The ones that tend to want to pop up on you are the corners. And this whole thing is going to be sitting level like that. At least that's how I've done it. You may want to adjust it slightly to your personal aesthetics, but I'm trying to get it back exactly how it was. Now once all that's smoothed out, we're going to start peeling from one corner to the opposite corner for the whole length. We're going to go slow and we're going to make sure nothing comes up. If it starts to lift up, we put it back down. We smooth it back down. You've come this far, you've got to have some patience to go slow at this step here. You're watching all these corners and bends as you do this. After we get this pulled off, we'll use our towel to wipe it up, and then we'll give it a hit on the lowest setting with a heat gun or the lowest setting of a hair dryer if you don't have a heat gun. Slow and steady. And you see I'm pulling very straight against the fender here, or the quarter panel rather. Okay. Take a clean towel, and again we're going to go from the middle out. Middle out. At this point, we've got a good hit. No bubbles. So it means we got no lint under here, no pieces of dust or debris. Our clay got rid of any imperfections. I like to go around these edges because there can be like lint and stuff sticking to the adhesive. We want to get all that out of there while we have it nice and wet. And we're actually going to give it one more hit here before we put the hair dryer or the air gun, hot air gun rather, on it. Just to give it some rigidity. We're going to run our squeegee under our towel. Just one more nice pass, and we want to we're feeling, making sure we don't feel anything. And you give this kind of attention to surface prep and this attention to detail, and it'll come out even better than the way it was done by GM. All right. Now we're just going to wipe up on this bottom, and we'll hit it with the hot air gun. All right. Lowest setting. Should not burn you. All right, that's it, guys. We're done with the driver's side. Now we're ready to move on over to the passenger side. I'll show you that a little bit faster, same technique. The bulletin I showed you says let it sit for 72 hours before trying to run it through a car wash or trying to wax or anything like that. I'd say give it a week in the sun. and that'll take care of getting this done. All right, let's move over to the passenger side. Right, on the passenger side, 4 pieces of tape to outline our pre-mask from the edge of the gap to the tail light. It's right around 3/4 of an inch. Right from the bottom of the door, just over 3 1/4. That's by the top of the Z. Over the top of the 1 on this side, almost 3 1/4. Now this I'll measure from the end gap at the tail light, just about 13 1/4. So what that'll do for you is after we soap everything up, just like we showed on the driver's side, we'll be able to get the pre-mask floated between these 4 points, and that'll get us lined up the way we want. Now in our case, we chose, just like on the driver's side, we chose to make sure that it was level. You could choose to follow the body line if you want, whatever looks more aesthetically pleasing. I'm going with level. All right, so we're going to give this another wipe with IPA, and then we're going to go ahead and soap it up and start to pull off the backing. All right, let's soap her up, just like we did on the other side. You can never have too much of this. Again, we're going to come in to the part that's got the pre-cut on it. Going to pull the backing off of the decal and the pre-mask. Soak this up also. Get this lined up on the measurements that we positioned for it. Take our rubber squeegee, coat the outside so it doesn't grab and tear. Start from the middle, start getting the air out. Anytime you feel it grabbing, keep it lubricated. Again, these are expensive, and you only get one shot at it. As soon as it feels like it's smooth, you don't feel any ripples, ridges, you've gone as far as you can with this in the way. So now we're going to remove this. 180 degrees. You can either go lower right to upper left like I'm doing now, or we could have came in from the upper right and pulled down towards the lower left. It doesn't matter. As you go, you're watching each of these angle areas for a lift. If you get a lift, you're going to put it back down and re-squeegee it. And you definitely have to go slow. You don't want to rip this thing off. Trust me, years of doing these, they can just rip, and then you got to start all over, and it's money down the tube. All right, success with that. We're just going to take our microfiber towel, see how we're looking. All right. I don't see any bubbles, but I'm going to go ahead and give it one more shot, just to be sure. now we're going to hit it with our hot air gun, lowest heat setting. And now she's ready for her baking in the sun. So guys, I hope you found this video useful in getting your Z71 rebadged or any other type of decal like four-wheel drive or whatever. Very similar procedure that we showed here and shared from that service bulletin. If you found this useful and it helps you get your job done, saved you some money, not having to pay somebody else to do it, appreciate you taking the time to pay it forward and hit that like button. If you've got questions or comments on what we did here today, go ahead and leave a comment below and I'll try to help. And as always, thanks for watching.